The ship moved through the darkness of space like a silent bird. Its name was Perseverance, and it had been traveling for 3 months. Captain Elena Volkov sat in her command chair, watching the stars through the main window. She had short dark hair and tired eyes. This mission was supposed to be simple. They were just mapping new star systems near the edge of human territory. "Captain, we're picking up something strange," said Lieutenant James Park. He was the ship's sensor officer, a young man from the Mars colonies. His fingers danced across his control panel. "There's an energy reading ahead. It doesn't match anything in our database." Elena leaned forward. "Show me." The main screen changed. It showed a massive sphere floating in the darkness. The sphere was huge, almost as big as Earth's moon. It was dark gray and covered in strange patterns that seemed to move when you looked at them. "That's not natural," said Dr. Sarah Chen, the ship's science officer. She came closer to the screen, her eyes wide. "Those patterns are artificial. Someone built this thing." Elena felt her heart beat faster. In all her years of space exploration, she had never seen anything like this. Humanity had met a few other alien species in the galaxy, but most of them were simple creatures, nothing that could build something this big. "How old is it?" Elena asked. Sarah worked on her computer for several minutes. When she looked up, her face was pale. "Captain, according to these readings, this structure is at least 3 million years old. Maybe older." The bridge went silent. 3 million years ago, humans were still learning to use stone tools. Whatever built this sphere was ancient beyond imagination. "There's more," James said. "I'm detecting life signs inside. And the atmosphere is breathable. Oxygen, nitrogen, the same mix we breathe." Elena made her decision quickly. "Send a standard first contact message. All frequencies. Let them know we come in peace." They waited. Minutes passed. Then hours. Elena was about to give up when something happened. The patterns on the sphere began to glow. Soft blue light spread across its surface like water. "They're responding," James shouted. "The sphere is opening a communication channel." But there was no voice. Instead, images appeared on their screens. They saw a city made of crystal that caught light and turned it into rainbows. They saw beings that looked like they were made of living glass, tall and elegant. They moved with grace, their bodies shining with inner light. Then they saw sadness. The images showed these glass beings looking up at the walls of their sphere. They were trapped, prisoners in their own world. "They want us to come inside," Sarah whispered. "They're inviting us in." Elena stood up. "Prepare the shuttle. I'm going down with a team. Sarah, James, you're with me, and bring Ambassador Torres. If this is first contact, we need to do it right." The shuttle separated from the Perseverance and flew toward the sphere. As they got closer, a section of the wall dissolved like smoke. They flew through into another world. Inside the sphere was impossible. They saw a small sun hanging in the center, giving light and warmth. Around it floated islands of land, each one covered with crystal cities. Bridges of light connected the islands. It was beautiful and strange and sad all at once. They landed on the largest island. The glass beings were waiting for them. Up close, Elena could see they were about 7 feet tall. Their bodies were made of something that looked like crystal but moved like flesh. Colors flowed under their skin like oil on water. One of them stepped forward. When it spoke, Elena heard the words in her mind rather than her ears. "Welcome, travelers. We are the Valthran. We have been alone for so very long." Ambassador Maria Torres stepped forward. She was an older woman with gray hair and kind eyes. "I am Maria Torres, representing humanity. We received your message. How can we help you?" The Valthran who had spoken made a sound like wind chimes. Elena somehow knew this was their version of a sad laugh. "Our story is long and tragic," the Valthran said. "My name is Velthora. I am the keeper of our history. Come, I will show you." They followed Velthora through the crystal city. Other Valthran watched them pass. Elena noticed that many of them looked dim, their inner light flickering like dying flames. Velthora brought them to a great hall. The walls were covered with images that moved and changed. She touched one wall and the images came to life. 3 million of your years ago we were a young species," Velthora began. "We had just learned to travel between stars. The galaxy was full of life then, more than it is now. We were happy to explore and meet new friends." The images showed Valthran ships traveling through space, meeting other species, sharing knowledge and art. But there were others in the galaxy, ancient beings who called themselves the Custodians. They had lived for billions of years. They believed that all life in the galaxy should be united under their control. They wanted every species to join their collective mind. The images changed. They showed massive ships that looked like they were made of pure mathematics and light. They were beautiful and terrible. We refused to join them. We valued our freedom, our individuality. This made us dangerous in their eyes. So they did something cruel. They released what they called a quantum plague upon our world. Elena saw images of Valthran falling, their crystal bodies cracking and breaking apart. But the plague did not kill us, Velthora continued. Instead, it changed us. It made our very existence dangerous to other life forms. Any species that came near us would suffer the same fate. We became living weapons, though we never wanted to be. The images showed the custodians building the sphere, forcing all the Valthran inside. They sealed us in here with enough resources to survive, but never to escape. They told the galaxy that we were too dangerous to exist among others, that we must be forgotten for the safety of all. And so we have lived here, watching the galaxy through our observation windows, completely alone for 3 million years. The images faded. Velthora turned to face the humans. Her light was dimmer now, and Elena could see the pain in her crystalline features. Now our artificial sun is dying. We do not have the materials to repair it. We built this world to last forever, but forever is a long time. Soon we will die in the darkness, and the galaxy will never know we were here. Sarah stepped forward. The quantum plague. Is it still active? Are we in danger? Velthora's color shifted to something like surprise. You are here, are you not? You are breathing our air, standing on our ground. If the plague still affected others, you would be dead already. No, whatever the custodians did to us wore off long ago. We are harmless. We have always been harmless. But the galaxy forgot us and no one came to check. Elena felt anger rise in her chest. 3 million years of imprisonment for a crime they never committed. 3 million years of loneliness. We will help you, Elena said. The words came out strong and clear. I promise you on behalf of humanity, we will not let you die in the darkness. Velthora's light grew brighter. You would do this? You barely know us, and your species is young. Do you have the power to help? We'll find a way, Elena said. Humans are good at doing impossible things. It's kind of our specialty. They spent 3 more days with the Valthran learning about their culture and technology. Sarah and her team took samples and ran tests. They confirmed that the quantum plague was gone. Whatever had made the Valthran dangerous was no longer active. The Valthran showed them their art. They created sculptures made of frozen light. They made music by vibrating at different frequencies. They had poetry that existed in 4 dimensions. They had 3 million years of culture, all trapped in this sphere unknown to the galaxy. On the last day, Elena stood with Velthora at an observation window. Through it, they could see the real stars, far away and untouchable. Why did you invite us in? Elena asked. You could have stayed hidden. Let the universe forget you completely. Velthora's colors swirled with something like hope. Because we saw your ship and we made a choice. We could die with dignity and silence, or we could reach out one last time. We chose to hope. It is the last freedom we have. Elena put her hand on the crystal wall. We won't let you down. I'm going to take this back to Earth. I'm going to tell them your story. And humans, we're stubborn. When we decide to help someone, we don't quit. When the Perseverance left the sphere, it carried terabytes of data about the Valthran. It carried cultural records, scientific measurements, and detailed scans of the dying artificial sun. But most importantly, it carried a message. As they jumped to faster-than-light travel heading back to human space, Elena recorded her official report. But she also recorded a personal message. She sent it to every news network, every social media platform, every communication channel that humans used. My name is Captain Elena Volkov, she said, looking into the camera. Today we discovered a species that has been forgotten by the galaxy. They are dying and they are alone and they need our help. I know humanity has its problems. I know we fight and argue and disagree, but I also know that when it matters, when someone needs us, we show up. The Valthran need us. Are we going to show up? The message spread across human space like wildfire. Within hours, billions of people had seen it. Within days, the entire human civilization was talking about one thing, the forgotten alien race that needed saving. Elena sat in her quarters and looked at the data about the Valthran's failing sun. The engineering challenge was enormous. It would take resources, technology, and manpower that humanity had never gathered in one place before. But as she read the messages flooding in from Earth and the colonies, from Mars and Luna and the asteroid belt, from every corner of human civilization, she felt something she hadn't felt in years: hope. People were angry. They were angry that the Valthran had been forgotten. They were angry that an innocent species had been imprisoned for millions of years. And they were ready to do something about it. "No one left behind," she whispered. It was humanity's oldest military tradition. Never leave your people behind enemy lines. Never abandon those who need you. The Valthran weren't human. But right now, in this moment, that didn't matter. They were people who needed help, and humanity was coming. The United Assembly Hall on Earth was built to hold 10,000 people. Today it was completely full. Representatives from every nation sat in their seats talking in worried voices. Delegates from the Mars colonies wore their red uniforms. The lunar cities sent their best diplomats in silver suits. Even the independent asteroid miners sent someone, a rough woman with scarred hands and sharp eyes. Elena stood at the main podium. Behind her, a huge screen showed images of the Valthran and their crystal cities. She had been speaking for 20 minutes, telling the assembly everything she had learned. "The Valthran have been prisoners for 3 million years, she said. Her voice echoed through the hall. They committed no crime. They were simply different. They refused to give up their freedom. And for that, they were forgotten. Left to die alone in the darkness, a man in an expensive suit stood up. He was Senator Richard Grant from the North American Coalition. "Captain Volkov, no one here disputes that their story is sad. But we must think carefully. These custodians you mentioned sealed them away for a reason. What if they were right? What if the Valthran are dangerous?" "The quantum plague is gone," Elena said firmly. "We tested it." My crew breathed their air, walked on their ground. "We're all fine. They're not dangerous anymore, if they ever were." A woman with gray hair stood next. She was Ambassador Chen Li from the Asian Federation. "Even if they're not dangerous, we must consider the cost. Repairing an artificial sun? Moving the resources needed? This would be the largest undertaking in human history. And for what? For aliens we just met?" Elena felt her face grow hot. "For people. They're people, Ambassador. They think, they feel, they create art and music. They're not just aliens. They're a civilization that deserves to live." The hall erupted in argument. People shouted at each other in dozens of languages. The Speaker of the Assembly, an old man from the African Union, banged his gavel until the noise died down. Dr. Kenji Tanaka took the podium next. He was a quantum physicist from Tokyo University, thin and nervous but brilliant. He had spent the last week studying all the data from the Valthran sphere. "I want to address the quantum plague," he said, adjusting his glasses. "We now understand what it was. The custodians didn't create a disease. They altered the Valthran's quantum frequency. This made them incompatible with most forms of life in the galaxy. But here's the interesting part. Humans have a natural resistance." The hall went quiet. Everyone leaned forward to listen. "Our quantum signature is unique," Dr. Tanaka continued. "It's probably because we evolved on Earth, which has unusual magnetic properties. Whatever the reason, we can be around the Valthran without any problems. And the frequency alteration? It faded over time. After 3 million years, it's barely detectable. The Valthran are completely safe now. But they weren't always safe," Senator Grant said. "The custodians knew what they were doing. They were protecting the galaxy." Dr. Tanaka shook his head. "With respect, Senator, I don't think so. After studying the data, I believe the quantum plague was never meant to protect anyone. It was a punishment. The custodians wanted the Valthran to join their collective mind. The Valthran refused. So the custodians made them incompatible with other life, then blamed them for it. It was a lie." The hall exploded again. This time the arguments were even louder. Elena watched as humanity debated the fate of an alien species they had just discovered. Over the next week, the debate spread beyond the assembly. On Earth, people argued in the streets. On Mars, workers in the domed cities held rallies. On Luna, students protested outside government buildings. 3 groups emerged with clear positions. The isolationists said humanity should stay away. "We have our own problems," said their leader, a popular news host named Marcus Webb. "Earth has flooding from climate change. Mars needs new atmosphere processors. The belt needs medical supplies. Why should we spend resources on aliens? Let them solve their own problems." The expansionists saw an opportunity. They were led by corporate executives and military strategists. The Valthran have 3 million years of technology, said CEO Sarah Zhang of Stellar Dynamics. If we help them, we can study their science. We can learn from them, but we should negotiate for access to their knowledge first. Business is business. The humanitarians demanded immediate action. This isn't about profit or politics, said Father Miguel Rodriguez, speaking for a coalition of religious and ethical groups. This is about doing what's right. They're dying. We can help. That's all that matters. Elena watched the news in her apartment in Geneva. She had given dozens of interviews, testified before committees, and barely slept for a week. But the debate continued. Then something unexpected happened. A message arrived from the Tharuk's hegemony. The Tharuks were one of the oldest species humanity had met. They looked like giant armored crabs and controlled a large section of the galaxy. Their empire was powerful and old. The Tharuk's ambassador appeared on screens across human space. His shell was dark red and his voice was deep and mechanical through the translator. "Humanity," he said, "we have heard of your discovery. We warn you, do not interfere with the Valthran sphere. The custodians placed that seal long ago. To break it would be unwise. The custodians had their reasons. You are a young species. Do not make mistakes that will endanger the galaxy." The message from the collective mind came next. The collective was a group intelligence made up of millions of small creatures that thought as one. They were peaceful but strange. The seal exists for purpose, their message said. Ancient wisdom placed it. New minds should not question old decisions. Leave the Valthran as they are. This is safest for all. More warnings came from other alien species. Each one said the same thing. The Valthran were sealed away for good reasons. Breaking the seal would be dangerous. Humanity should stay away. Elena read these warnings and felt cold. "They're afraid," she said to Ambassador Torres. They were sitting in a cafe in Geneva, watching people walk by outside. "The other species aren't warning us. They're afraid of the custodians." Maria Torres nodded. She looked tired. "The custodians have been gone for millions of years, but these species still fear them." "What does that tell you about how powerful they were?" "It tells me that the custodians were bullies," Elena said, "and that everyone in the galaxy learned to obey them. Everyone except us because we never met them. The warnings from alien species changed the debate on Earth. Some people became more afraid." "See," the isolationist said, "even other aliens say this is dangerous. We should listen." But others became angry. On social media, a new hashtag started trending. "No one left behind." It spread across human space in hours. "We were once the weak ones," wrote a teacher from Beijing. "We were primitive. Other species could have destroyed us. Some wanted to. But we survived. Now we're strong. Are we going to abandon others the way we were almost abandoned?" "My grandfather was a refugee," wrote a miner from the belt. "He had nothing. No one wanted to help. But some people did help. They gave him food, shelter, hope. He always said, you help because it's right, not because it's easy. The Valthran need help. It's that simple." "I'm a Marine," wrote a soldier from Luna Base. "We have a saying, never leave anyone behind. Not our soldiers, not our friends, not anyone who needs us. The Valthran are alone and dying. That means they need us. Marines don't abandon people who need us." The movement grew. Billions of people across human space began demanding action. They held rallies. They signed petitions. They called their representatives day and night. Elena watched it happen with amazement. Humanity was messy. Humans fought each other constantly. They disagreed about everything. But somehow, when it really mattered, they could come together. The final assembly vote was scheduled for Friday. Elena couldn't sleep the night before. She kept thinking about Velthora and the other Valthran, waiting in their dying world, hoping that someone would help. Friday came. The assembly hall was so crowded that people stood in the aisles. Cameras from every news network filmed the proceedings. This vote would make history. The Speaker of the Assembly stood at his podium. "We have debated for 2 weeks," he said. "We have heard from scientists, politicians, religious leaders, and ordinary citizens. Now we must decide. The question is simple. Will humanity attempt to rescue the Valthran?" The vote was taken electronically. Each representative pressed a button. Green for yes, red for no. Elena held her breath. The results appeared on the big screen. Yes 7342, no 2658. The hall erupted in cheers. People hugged each other. Some cried. Elena felt tears running down her face and didn't care. The speaker banged his gavel for order. When the hall quieted, he spoke again. His voice was strong and clear. By the authority of the United Assembly, humanity commits to Operation Lightbringer. We will break the ancient seal. We will repair the Valthran's sun. We will free them from their prison, and we will do it regardless of what other species think. He paused, and his next words would be quoted for generations. We were once written off as primitive and dangerous. We were once told we didn't matter. We survived because some people refused to abandon us. Now it's our turn. The Valthran are dying. The galaxy says to let them die. But that's not who we are. That's not what humanity does. We don't abandon people who need help. We show up, we get the job done, and we don't quit until everyone is safe. The hall erupted again. This time no one tried to stop the cheering. Elena left the assembly hall and walked through the streets of Geneva. It was evening. The city lights were coming on. People celebrated in the streets. Strangers hugged each other. Someone had projected Velthora's image on the side of a building along with the words, "Hold on. We're coming." Elena's phone buzzed. It was a message from the Perseverance. The crew had sent her a photo. They were all holding up a banner that read, "No one left behind." She smiled and looked up at the stars. The Valthran were out there somewhere, waiting in the darkness. But they weren't alone anymore. In homes across Earth, parents told their children about the vote. On Mars, workers in the terraforming plants talked about how they could help. On Luna, engineers started designing new equipment. In the asteroid belt, miners calculated how much material they could send. Humanity was preparing for the biggest rescue mission in history, and Elena knew, deep in her heart, that they would succeed. Because humans were stubborn. Because humans didn't quit. And because when someone needed help, humans showed up. The galaxy had warned them to stay away. The galaxy had forgotten the Valthran, but humanity remembered. And humanity was coming. In the ancient sphere at the edge of known space, Velthora stood at her observation window. She didn't know about the vote yet. The light from Earth would take weeks to reach her, but somehow she felt something change in the universe. A warmth, a hope. "They're coming," she whispered to the darkness. "I don't know how I know, but they're coming." Her inner light grew brighter just a little. And for the first time in 3 million years, the Valthran dared to dream of freedom. The fleet gathered at Luna Station, and it was the most beautiful thing Elena had ever seen. Ships from every corner of human civilization floated in formation. Military vessels from Earth's Defense Force, painted in blue and white. Heavy cargo ships from Mars, red as the planet they came from. Fast courier ships from Luna, silver and sleek. Mining vessels from the asteroid belt, scarred and tough from years of hard work. 12,000 people had volunteered. Engineers who knew how to fix anything. Scientists who could solve impossible problems. Soldiers who knew how to fight. Medics who could heal. And ordinary people who simply wanted to help. Elena stood on the bridge of the command ship, the Phoenix. Next to her was Admiral Chen Wei, a small woman with white hair and sharp eyes. She had fought in the Belt Wars and never lost a battle. "Quite a fleet," Chen Wei said. "I've never commanded anything like this. Military vessels, civilian ships, even a few private yachts. They all want to help." "That's humanity for you," Elena said. "Messy, chaotic, but always showing up when it matters." Dr. Tanaka was there too, looking at his computer. "I've calculated the route. 3 weeks to reach the sphere. Then we need to break through the seal, get inside and repair the artificial sun. The sun repair alone will take at least a month." "What about the quantum plague?" asked Commander Sarah Johnson, the fleet's chief medical officer. "You said humans are resistant, but what about prolonged exposure?" Dr. Tanaka pushed his glasses up. "The plague is almost gone, but there's still a small quantum frequency that doesn't match our biology. Short exposure is fine. A few days no problem, but weeks or months, some people might experience side effects. Headaches, disorientation, temporal displacement." "Temporal displacement?" Elena asked. "You might see things that happened in the past or future. Brief glimpses, nothing more. It's not dangerous, just uncomfortable." Admiral Chen Wei nodded. "We'll rotate crews. No one stays inside the sphere for more than 2 weeks at a time, and anyone who shows symptoms gets pulled out immediately." The fleet launched the next day. 12,000 people in 300 ships all heading toward the edge of known space. The journey took 3 weeks, just as Dr. Tanaka predicted. Elena used that time to prepare. Every evening she broadcast messages to the fleet. She talked about the mission. She talked about the Valthrin. She made sure everyone understood what they were doing and why. "We're not just fixing a sun," she said in one broadcast. "We're telling the universe that no one deserves to be forgotten. That every life matters. That's what humanity stands for." The messages were watched by people back home too. The whole human civilization followed their progress. Children drew pictures of the Valthrin and sent them to the fleet. Scientists on Earth analyzed data and sent solutions. Even the corporate executives who had wanted to profit from the mission donated equipment and resources. When the fleet reached the sphere, they found it exactly as Elena remembered. Huge, dark, and covered in moving patterns. But now something was different. The Valthrin had been watching for them. As the fleet approached, the patterns on the sphere lit up in brilliant colors. It was their way of saying, "Welcome, friends. Hail the sphere," Elena ordered. Velthora's image appeared on the screen. Her crystalline body glowed brighter than before. "You came," she said, and Elena could hear wonder in her mental voice. "You really came. We watched your broadcasts. We saw the debates. We know you argued about helping us, but you came anyway." "We promised," Elena said simply. "Humans keep their promises." Admiral Chen Wei stepped forward. "Velthora, we're here to help. But first we need to break the seal and get our ships inside. Can you help us with that?" The Valthrin leader's colors shifted to something worried. "The seal is ancient technology. The custodians built it to last forever. We've tried to break it for 3 million years. It has defense systems, weapons we don't understand." "Let us worry about that," Chen Wei said with a small smile. "Humans are very good at breaking things." The Admiral wasn't exaggerating. The seal was protected by automated defense systems that were millions of years old. As soon as the fleet tried to cut through the outer shell, weapons activated. Beams of pure energy shot out, destroying 2 cargo ships before anyone could react. But humanity had learned to fight in space over 2 centuries of colonization. The military vessels formed a protective screen. When the ancient weapons fired, the human ships dodged with maneuvers learned from 100 small wars and skirmishes. The belt miners proved especially valuable. They were used to working in dangerous conditions, cutting through asteroids while avoiding debris and radiation. They flew their ships in patterns the ancient AI couldn't predict, coming at the seal from dozens of angles at once. The Martian ships used cyber warfare. Their hackers had grown up in a world where every system was networked, every computer connected. They found ways to confuse the ancient defense systems, sending false signals, creating ghosts on sensors. It took 3 days, but eventually, humanity created a hole in the seal large enough for ships to pass through. As the first vessels entered, the automated defenses finally went silent. The AI gave up, Dr. Tanaka said with amazement. "I think we confused it. It was programmed to defend against one attack at a time, from one direction. We came at it from everywhere at once with tactics it had never seen. They brought the fleet inside. The Valthrin were waiting. Thousands of them gathered on the main island, their bodies glowing with excitement. Human ships landed on the crystal platforms the Valthrin had prepared. Elena was in the first shuttle to land. When she stepped out, Velthora was there to greet her. Without thinking, Elena hugged the alien leader. Velthora's body was warm and hummed with a gentle vibration. "Thank you," Velthora said. "Thank you for not forgetting us." The work began immediately. The artificial sun at the center of the sphere was failing. Its fusion core was unstable, losing power every day. If it went out completely, the Valthrin would freeze to death in weeks. Dr. Tanaka led the scientific team. They studied the sun with equipment from Earth and information from the Valthrin. "It's incredible," Tanaka said. "This technology is so far ahead of ours, but the basic principle is the same as our fusion reactors, just much, much bigger. The main problem was fuel. The sun needed specific isotopes to maintain fusion. The Valthrin had run out of these isotopes centuries ago. They had been stretching their remaining fuel, making it last as long as possible, but now there was nothing left. "We brought isotopes from the belt," said the chief mining officer, a woman named Rosa Martinez, "enough to keep the sun burning for another 1,000 years. But we need to get it into the core. That's the hard part. The core was hot. Not as hot as a natural star, but hot enough to vaporize any ship that got too close. The Valthrin had tried to refuel it before. but they lacked the materials to build radiation shielding strong enough. Humanity brought tungsten from Earth, titanium from Mars, and rare metals from the belt. Engineers worked day and night building a special drone that could survive the heat. It took 2 weeks of constant work. During that time, humans and Valthran learned to work together. The language barrier was challenging. The Valthran communicated through color changes and mental projections. A young linguist from Brazil named Maria Santos created a translation system using color reading sensors and neural interfaces. "It's beautiful," Maria said, showing Elena the device. "Their language has depth. When they say something, they can show emotion, history, and context all at once. It's like poetry and conversation combined." The cultural exchange went both ways. Valthran learned to understand human speech, which seemed very limited to them. "You only use sound?" one Valthran asked with confusion. "Just vibrations in air? How do you convey complex feelings?" "We use body language too," explained a human teacher. "And we write things down. We have art and music. Different ways than yours, but they work." The Valthran were fascinated by human diversity. They couldn't understand how one species could have so many different skin colors, languages, and cultures. "On our world, we were all the same," Velthora explained to Elena. "We had different ideas, different art styles, yes, but we all looked alike. You humans are all so different from each other, yet you work together. How?" Elena thought about it. "I guess we learned. It took us a long time. We fought wars over our differences, did terrible things to each other. But eventually we figured out that our differences make us stronger. A problem I can't solve, maybe someone else can. A way of thinking I don't have, maybe my neighbor does." "You learned to be one people while staying many people," Velthora said. "That is wisdom the custodians never had. They wanted everyone to be the same. You proved that unity doesn't require sameness." The work continued, but problems emerged. Some humans started experiencing the side effects Dr. Tanaka had predicted. A Marine from Luna started seeing images of the past, watching Valthran history play out before his eyes. An engineer from Mars felt time moving strangely, minutes feeling like hours. Commander Johnson pulled affected personnel out immediately. They recovered quickly once they left the sphere, but it meant constant rotation of crews which slowed the work. "We're behind schedule," Admiral Chenwei said at a planning meeting. "At this rate, we won't finish before the sun fails completely." Elena looked at the exhausted faces around the table. Engineers with dark circles under their eyes. Scientists who hadn't slept in days. Military personnel working double shifts. "We need more time," Dr. Tanaka said. "The drone is almost ready, but we need another week to test it properly. If we rush and it fails, we won't get a second chance." "The Valthrans say they can lower the power output of the sun," Velthora added. She was attending the meeting through a hologram. "We can make it last longer, but we will have less light, less heat. Our people will suffer, but we will survive." "Do it," Elena said. "We'll work faster, but we'll do it right. We didn't come all this way to fail because we rushed." The Valthran dimmed their sun. The sphere grew colder. The crystal cities lost some of their sparkle, but work continued. On the 28th day, the drone was ready. It was an ugly thing. All angles and armor, bristling with heat shields and radiation deflectors, but it was built to do one job: carry fusion fuel into the core of the artificial sun. "This is it," Dr. Tanaka said. He looked at the control panel, his hands shaking slightly. "If this works, we save the Valthran. If it fails, it won't fail," said Rosa Martinez. She had helped build the drone herself. "I checked every weld, every seal. This thing will work." They launched the drone. Everyone watched on screens as it flew toward the dying sun. The temperature readings climbed. 1,000 degrees. 5,000. 10,000. The drone's outer armor began to glow red, then white. "Hull integrity holding," someone called out. 15,000 degrees. 20,000. The drone was inside the sun's outer layer now, pushing toward the core. "Come on," Elena whispered. "Come on, you can make it." 25,000 degrees. The drone's cameras stopped working. They were flying blind, using only computer calculations and hope. "Fuel delivery in 30 seconds, Dr. Tanaka said. His voice was steady, but his hands gripped the edge of the console. 20 seconds. 10. 5. Payload released. The drone had dumped its cargo of fusion isotopes into the sun's core. Now it just had to survive long enough to get out. For a moment, nothing happened. The sun continued to flicker and dim, then it roared back to life. The light grew brighter. Warmth spread through the sphere. The artificial sun burned with power it hadn't had in centuries. "We did it," someone shouted. The control room erupted in cheers. People hugged each other, crying and laughing at the same time. Dr. Tanaka collapsed into a chair, his face pale, looking like he might faint. Outside, in the crystal cities, the Valthran responded. Their bodies lit up like thousands of living lanterns. They sang in colors, creating a display of light that was the most beautiful thing any human had ever seen. Elena stood at an observation window, watching the celebration. Admiral Chenwei came to stand beside her. "We actually did it," the Admiral said quietly. "I wasn't sure we could. But we did. There's still work to do," Elena said. "We need to make sure the seal stays open. We need to help them rebuild." "This isn't over." "No," Chenwei agreed. "But the hard part is done. They're going to live. That's what matters." That evening, humans and Valthran gathered for a celebration on the main island. Food from Earth, drinks from Mars, strange glowing fruits from the Valthran gardens. Languages mixed, human laughter combined with the chiming sounds of Valthran joy. Velthora found Elena in the crowd. "You saved us," the Valthran leader said. "Not just our lives, our hope, our future. How do we thank you for that?" "You don't need to thank us," Elena said. "You would have done the same for us." "Yes," Velthora said, her colors shifting to something deep and warm. "Yes, we would have. I think that's how we know we're friends. Real friends help each other." Above them, the artificial sun burned bright and strong. It would burn for another 1,000 years. The Valthran were safe. But far away in the darkness between stars, ancient sensors detected the breach. The seal was broken. The prison was open, and after 3 million years of silence, the custodians stirred. They were coming. The warning came 3 days after the celebration. Dr. Tanaka was asleep in his quarters when alarms woke him. He ran to the control room in his pajamas, his heart pounding. "What's happening?" he asked. Commander Sarah Johnson pointed at the main screen. "Something's coming out of dark space. Something big." Dark space was what humans called the empty void between star systems. Nothing lived there. Nothing moved there. It was just darkness and cold. But now something was coming out of it. The sensors showed 3 massive objects. They were huge, bigger than any ship humanity had ever built. They weren't made of metal or any material the sensors could identify. They looked like geometry made solid, like mathematical equations given form. "Get Elena," someone said, "and the Admiral, now." Within minutes, the command staff gathered in the control room. Elena looked at the screen and felt her blood go cold. The objects were beautiful in a terrible way. They hurt to look at, like your brain couldn't quite understand what it was seeing. "Are those ships?" Admiral Chenwei asked. "I don't think so," Dr. Tanaka said. He was working fast on his computer. "They're not ships in any sense we understand. They're more like projected consciousnesses, physical thoughts. I don't know how else to describe them." Velthora appeared on the communication screen. Her colors had turned dark blue, the Valthran version of fear. "No," she whispered. "Not them. Not now. You know what these are?" Helena asked. "The custodians," Velthora said. "They've come back. After 3 million years, they've finally come back." The 3 geometric entities stopped just outside the sphere. They didn't send a message through radio or any communication system humans understood. Instead, words simply appeared in everyone's mind all at once. Small ones. "You have broken the seal. You have released the corruption. This cannot be permitted." The voice was not angry. It was not sad. It had no emotion at all. It was like hearing a law of physics speak. Admiral Chenwei stepped forward. "I am Admiral Chenwei of the Human Defense Force. The Valthran are not corrupted. They were prisoners and we freed them. If you have an issue with that, we can talk. There is nothing to discuss. The Valthran refused unity. They chose chaos over order. They were contained. For the safety of all, you have undone this work. You will be removed. They will be removed. Order will be restored." Elena felt anger rise in her chest. The Valthran did nothing wrong. They just wanted to be free. "And we're not going to let you hurt them. Your species is young, you do not. Understand? All life must join the collective. All thoughts must become one. Thought. This is the only way to achieve peace." The Valthran refused. They were dangerous examples. Others might follow their path. Dr. Tanaka suddenly understood. You didn't seal them away because they were dangerous. You sealed them away because they said no to you. Because their freedom might give others ideas. Freedom is chaos. Chaos is suffering. We ended suffering 3 billion years ago. The galaxy was united. All minds were one mind. It was perfect. Then the Valthran emerged, young, foolish, refusing. The gift of unity. We gave them time to reconsider. 3 million years. They did not change. Now the time for reconsideration is over. One of the geometric entities moved forward. It didn't fly like a ship. It just appeared closer, as if it had edited reality. Energy began building around it, a light that made human sensors scream warnings. Battle stations. Admiral Chen Wei shouted. All ships defensive formation around the sphere. The human fleet scrambled into position. 300 ships against 3 custodian entities. It should have been a joke. The custodians were millions of years more advanced. Their technology was so far beyond humanity's that it might as well be magic. But humans had one advantage. They were used to fighting enemies more powerful than themselves. They had learned to win through stubbornness, creativity, and refusing to quit. The first custodian entity fired. A beam of pure energy shot out, and it moved faster than light itself. It hit a cargo ship from Mars, and the ship simply stopped existing. No explosion, no debris. One moment it was there, the next it wasn't. Return fire, Chen Wei ordered. Human weapons launched. Missiles, energy beams, kinetic rounds. Everything they had. The attacks hit the custodian entity and did exactly nothing. They passed through it like shooting at smoke. Weapons ineffective, someone shouted. The custodian fired again. Another ship vanished. Then another. Elena watched in horror. They were losing. This wasn't a battle. It was an execution. All ships retreat into the sphere, she ordered. Use the structure for cover. The fleet pulled back through the breach in the seal. The custodians followed, but now they had to navigate through the opening. It slowed them down just a little. Inside the sphere, the Valthran were already moving. Velthora's voice came through the communication system. We're activating our defense systems. They're old, but they still work. Ancient weapons came online. The Valthran had built them long ago before they were sealed away. Beams of quantum-twisted energy shot out from the crystal cities. When they hit the custodian entities, the entities flickered. That hurt them, Dr. Tanaka shouted. The Valthran weapons work because they operate on the same principles. Keep firing. The battle became chaos. Human ships darted between floating islands using the terrain. They couldn't hurt the custodians directly, but they could be annoying. They flew close, forcing the entities to adjust their aim. They blocked firing lines. They created confusion. The belt miners were especially good at this. They flew their beaten-up ships through impossible spaces, dodging attacks by centimeters. One miner, an old man named Zhou Chen, flew his ship directly at a custodian entity, then swerved at the last second. The entity's return fire missed him and hit one of its own kind instead. Did you see that? Zhou's voice came through the communication system. These ancient bastards can't tell us apart. They're not used to fighting individuals. Admiral Chen Wei realized he was right. The custodians had spent billions of years as a collective mind. They thought as one. They expected their enemies to think as one too. But humanity was chaos. 300 ships, 12,000 people, all making their own decisions. All ships independent tactics. The Admiral ordered. Don't follow patterns. Be unpredictable. Make them work for every shot. The human fleet scattered. Each captain chose their own strategy. Some hid behind crystal structures. Some flew in wild patterns. Some grouped together, then split apart. It was messy and disorganized and completely unpredictable. The custodians struggled to respond. Their ancient minds were powerful but rigid. They couldn't adapt to chaos fast enough, but they were still winning. Slowly, inevitably, human ships fell. Each loss was announced over the communication system. Names Elena had come to know. People she had eaten meals with. Friends. We can't keep this up, Admiral Chen Wei said quietly. We're holding them off, but barely. And they don't seem to tire. Eventually, they'll destroy us all. Dr. Tanaka was working frantically on his computer. There has to be a way. The Valthran technology affects them, if we can understand why. Velthora appeared on the screen. I know why our weapons work. The custodians are energy beings. They exist partially in quantum space, Our weapons were designed to disrupt quantum coherence. That's why we could resist them 3 million years ago. The quantum plague, Elena said suddenly. The custodians gave the Valthran the quantum plague to make them unable to fight back. That means the plague must have disabled your weapons somehow. Yes, Velthora said. Our own defensive systems became dangerous to us. We had to shut them down. That's when they sealed us away. They made us defenseless, then imprisoned us. Dr. Tanaka's eyes went wide. If we could recreate the quantum plague effect, but target it at the custodians instead, we could disrupt their coherence, make them vulnerable. Can we do that? Elena asked. Maybe, Tanaka said. But we'd need to generate a massive quantum field, something that covers the entire sphere. And we'd need the Valthran's help to tune it to the right frequency. How long? Admiral Chenwei asked. Hours, maybe a day, if everything works perfectly. Then buy us time, Elena said to the Admiral. Whatever it takes, Chenwei nodded. Her face was grim. All ships, this is Admiral Chenwei. We need to hold for 24 hours. I know you're tired. I know we're taking losses. But there are people working on a solution. People who are smarter than me and probably smarter than you. So we're going to do our job. We're going to hold this line. Because that's what humans do. We hold the line. The next 24 hours were the longest of Elena's life. She helped Dr. Tanaka and the Valthran scientists work on the quantum field generator. It required combining human and Valthran technology in ways that shouldn't work but somehow did. Outside, the battle raged. The human fleet was down to 200 ships. Then 150. The custodians were methodical, destroying one ship at a time, but humans kept fighting. When a ship's weapons failed, they rammed the custodian entities. It didn't hurt the entities, but it disrupted their firing solutions. When a ship was about to be destroyed, the crew evacuated, then set the ship on a collision course with the enemy. The Valthran fought too. Their people, who had known only peace for 3 million years, stood alongside humans at weapon stations. They learned to shoot, to dodge, to fight back against the beings who had imprisoned them. Finally, after 23 hours and 42 minutes, Dr. Tanaka looked up from his computer. It's ready. The quantum field generator is ready. Elena ran to the communication system. All ships pull back to minimum safe distance. We're about to activate the field. The remaining human ships retreated. The custodian entities moved forward, sensing victory. Activate the field, Elena ordered. Dr. Tanaka pressed a button. Nothing seemed to happen at first. Then the air inside the sphere began to shimmer. The Valthran's crystal structures started glowing with a strange light. The quantum field spread outward, invisible but powerful. When it touched the custodian entities, they screamed. The sound wasn't physical. It existed directly in people's minds. It was the sound of absolute certainty experiencing doubt, of perfect order experiencing chaos, of beings who had been one mind for billions of years suddenly becoming 3 separate entities. The geometric forms that made up the custodians began to flicker. They tried to retreat, but the quantum field filled the entire sphere. There was nowhere to go. Fire, Admiral Chenwei shouted. All weapons, fire now. Human weapons, which had passed through the custodians like smoke before, now struck home. The entities were solid, vulnerable. Energy beams cut into them. Missiles exploded against their surfaces. The Valthran weapons, amplified by the quantum field, tore into them like paper. The custodians tried to fight back, but they were confused, separated. For the first time in their existence, they were individuals instead of a collective. They didn't know how to function that way. The battle lasted another hour. When it was over, the 3 custodian entities were destroyed. Their remains dissolved into light and mathematics, fading from reality. The sphere fell silent. Elena stood in the control room, barely able to believe it. Did we just win? Admiral Chenwei was checking casualty reports. Her face was sad. We lost 147 ships. 2,312 people dead. But yes, we won. Velthora appeared on the screen. Her colors were bright but mixed with darker shades of grief. You fought the custodians, beings who shaped the galaxy for billions of years. And you won. How? Because they thought like a machine, Elena said. Perfect and predictable. But humans, we're messy. We make mistakes. We improvise. We refuse to quit even when we should. That messiness, that chaos, that's our strength. You lost so many, Velthora said softly. So many died to save us. They died doing something that mattered, Admiral Chen Wei said. They died making sure no one gets left behind. That's a good death if there is such a thing. Elena looked at the list of casualties, names of people from Earth, Mars, Luna, the Belt. Different nations, different backgrounds, all united in one purpose. We need to contact Earth, she said. Let them know what happened. And we need to prepare. If 3 custodians came, there might be more. But deep down, Elena felt something had changed. The custodians had ruled through fear for billions of years. Every species in the galaxy had learned to obey them, until humanity said no. And that changed everything. The memorial service was held 1 week after the battle. They couldn't bury the dead in space, so instead they held a ceremony on the largest island inside the sphere. Humans and Valthrin gathered together, thousands of them standing in silence. Elena read the names. All 2,312 of them. It took 3 hours. Her voice grew hoarse, but she didn't stop. Every person deserved to be remembered. Every name deserved to be spoken. When she finished, Velthora stepped forward. The Valthrin leader's colors were deep blue mixed with gold, the combination of sorrow and honor. We did not ask you to die for us, Velthora said, her mental voice reaching everyone present. But you chose to anyway. You fought beings that had lived for billions of years. You defeated them through courage and sacrifice. We will remember your names. We will teach them to our children and our children's children. You will never be forgotten, the Valthrin sang then. It wasn't music as humans understood it, but changes in color and light that created emotion directly in the heart. Every human present felt it. Sadness for the lost, gratitude for the sacrifice, hope for the future. After the ceremony, Elena walked through the crystal gardens with Admiral Chen Wei. The artificial sun shone bright above them. Stable and strong. I got a message from Earth, Chen Wei said. The Assembly wants us to come home. They're calling us heroes. We're not heroes, Elena said. We just did what needed to be done. That's what makes you heroes, the Admiral replied with a small smile. Heroes never think they are. A young Valthrin approached them. Her colors were bright and curious. Through the translation device, she spoke in English. Excuse me, Captain Volkov. I wanted to thank you. I'm only 300 years old. I've never known anything but this sphere. But now, because of you, I can dream of seeing the real stars. Elena knelt down to the young Valthrin's level. What's your name? Kelnara. Well, Kelnara, you're going to see those stars. I promise you that. Over the next few weeks, news of the battle spread across the galaxy. Every species heard the story. Humanity had defeated the custodians. The beings who had shaped the galaxy for billions of years were not invincible. The reactions were mixed. The Tharux hegemony sent an official message. The crab-like ambassador appeared on screens across human space. We warned you not to interfere, he said. We believed you would fail and bring disaster. We were wrong. The Tharux hegemony offers formal alliance with humanity. Perhaps young species see truths that old species have forgotten. The collective mind was more cautious. You have changed the balance, their message said. We do not know if this change is good, but we acknowledge your strength. We will negotiate new treaties. But other messages came too, from species humanity had never met. Small, isolated civilizations that had been hiding from the custodians for millions of years. You did what we could never do, one message said. You stood up to them. You won. We want to meet you. We want to learn from you. Dr. Tanaka analyzed all the data from the battle. He worked with Valthrin scientists combining their knowledge with human science. What they discovered was remarkable. The custodians weren't as powerful as we thought, Tanaka explained to Elena. They were ancient, yes. Advanced, yes. But they had become rigid. They had spent billions of years enforcing order. They forgot how to adapt, how to change. That's why they couldn't handle our chaos. So we won because we're messy? Elena asked. In a way, yes. Every human ship captain made their own decisions. We had no central control, no unified strategy. That should have been a weakness. But against an enemy that expects perfect order, it became a strength. They couldn't predict us because we couldn't predict ourselves. The Valthrin had choices to make now. The seal was broken. Their sun was repaired. They could leave the sphere if they wanted, settle on planets, spread across the galaxy. But in a vote that surprised everyone, they chose to stay. This sphere has been our prison for 3 million years. Velthora explained at a joint Human-Valthran Council meeting. But it's also our home. It holds our history, our art, our memories. We don't want to abandon it. Instead, we want to transform it. Make it a symbol of freedom instead of imprisonment. What do you propose? Elena asked. Velthora's colors shifted to bright orange, the Valthran version of excitement. We want to open the sphere to everyone. Make it a place where any species can come. A sanctuary for those who need help. A meeting place for different civilizations. We would call it Haven, a joint human-Valthran colony. Admiral Chen Wei asked, more than that, a symbol. A statement to the galaxy that no one deserves to be forgotten. That everyone deserves freedom and safety. The proposal went to both human and Valthran governments. It passed with overwhelming support. Haven Station was officially founded 1 month after the battle. The work began immediately. Human engineers and Valthran builders worked side by side. They expanded the breach in the seal, creating a proper entrance. They built docking stations for ships. They created living spaces that could accommodate both crystalline Valthran and fleshy humans. Other species started arriving. A small group of Therics came to establish an embassy. Representatives from the collective mind arrived to study this new way of cooperation. And smaller species, ones that had been hiding in the shadows of the galaxy, came seeking safety. One day, Elena was supervising construction on a new residential area when Maria Santos found her. The linguist was excited, her eyes bright. Captain, you have to see this. The Valthran children are teaching human children their language, and the human children are teaching them to play soccer. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. Elena went to look. In a crystal plaza, human children and young Valthran were running around together. They were kicking a ball, laughing, using a mixture of spoken words and color changes to communicate. They had invented their own hybrid language without any adults telling them how. This is the future, Elena said quietly. Not human. Not Valthran. Something new. Something better. Back on Earth, things were changing too. The victory over the custodians had united humanity in ways that politics never could. Nations that had been arguing for decades suddenly found common ground. If they could work together to save an alien species and defeat an ancient enemy, they could work together on Earth. New treaties were signed. Resources were shared more fairly. The Mars colonies got the support they needed. The belt miners were finally recognized as full citizens. Luna Station was expanded. But more importantly, humanity's attitude changed. They had proven something to themselves. They were not just another species struggling to survive in the galaxy. They were people who stood up for what was right, who helped those in need, who refused to abandon anyone. 6 months after the battle, Elena stood with Velthora at an observation window in Haven Station. They were watching ships arrive, human cargo vessels bringing supplies, a Therix diplomatic ship, a small courier from a species Elena had never heard of. Your people have changed us, Velthora said. We spent 3 million years waiting to die. Now we have purpose again. We have hope. You changed us too, Elena replied. You reminded us what we're capable of when we care about something beyond ourselves. A child's laugh echoed through the corridor behind them. They turned to see Kelnara, the young Valthran, playing with a human boy about her age. They were drawing pictures together, combining human art techniques with Valthran light painting. I never thought I'd see that, Velthora said. Different species, different forms of life, just being friends. No politics, no treaties. Just children playing. That's how it should be, Elena said. That's how it will be if we can make it happen. 3 months later, the Covenant of Free Peoples was signed. It was different from any treaty before. It wasn't just about trade or military alliance. It was about principles. The first principle was simple. No one gets left behind. The second, freedom is a right, not a privilege. The third, diversity makes us stronger. 23 species signed the Covenant. Humanity, the Valthran, the Therix, the collective mind, and 19 smaller species that had been hiding or oppressed for millions of years. The signing ceremony was held at Haven Station. Elena wasn't sure why she had been chosen to speak. She was just a ship captain, but they insisted. She stood at the podium, looking at the representatives from 23 different species. Some breathed oxygen, some breathed methane, some didn't breathe at all. They looked nothing alike, but they were all here for the same reason: 6 months ago, we discovered a species that had been forgotten, Elena began. The galaxy had moved on without them. They were going to die alone in the darkness. But we decided that wasn't acceptable. We decided that no one, no matter how different, deserves to be abandoned. She paused, looking at the faces in the crowd. The custodians ruled through fear and force. They wanted everyone to be the same, to think the same, to be part of one collective. They believed that was the only way to have peace. But they were wrong. Her voice grew stronger. Real peace doesn't come from making everyone the same. It comes from respecting our differences, from understanding that each species, each individual has value. The Valthran taught us that, and we taught them something too. That even after 3 million years of isolation, you're never truly alone. Because somewhere in the galaxy there are people who will stand up for you. She held up the covenant document. This treaty is a promise that we will never let another species suffer the way the Valthran suffered. A promise that we will stand together against tyranny. A promise that we will protect each other's freedom even at great cost. Because that's what it means to be part of the covenant of free peoples. The hall erupted in applause, or its equivalent. The Thuruks clacked their claws. The collective mind hummed in harmony. The Valthran glowed with brilliant colors. And the humans cheered. That evening, Elena sat in a quiet corner of Haven Station with her old crew. Sarah Chen, James Park, Dr. Tanaka, and Maria Santos. They drank coffee that Sarah had somehow smuggled from Earth. "Do you think the custodians will come back?" James asked. "I mean, we destroyed 3 of them. But there might be more." "Probably," Dr. Tanaka said. "The galaxy is big. There are probably thousands of custodian entities out there, maybe millions. But they know about us now," Sarah said. "They know that humans don't back down. That might make them think twice. Or it might make them more determined," Maria added. Elena looked at her friends. These people who had been with her from the beginning. "If they come back, we'll face them again. But this time we won't be alone. We have allies now. We have the Valthran. We have the Thuruks. We have 23 species who believe in freedom." "And if that's not enough?" James asked. Elena smiled. "Then we'll do what humans always do. We'll improvise. We'll adapt. We'll be stubborn and annoying and refuse to quit, and somehow we'll find a way to win." 1 year after the battle, Elena took a leave of absence. She needed rest. She needed time to process everything that had happened. She returned to Earth, to the small village in Russia where she had grown up. Her mother was still alive, older but strong. They sat on the porch of her childhood home, drinking tea and watching the sunset. "I saw you on the news," her mother said in Russian. "My daughter, the hero who saved an alien species." "I'm not a hero, Mama, I just did what was right." Her mother smiled. "That's what heroes do, Lenochka. They do what's right even when it's hard, especially when it's hard." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Then her mother asked, "What will you do now?" Elena thought about it. About Haven Station, about the Covenant, about all the work that still needed to be done. "I'm going back," she said. "There are more species out there who need help. More people who have been forgotten. I'm going to find them." "Good," her mother said. "That's my girl." 2 years after the battle, Haven Station was thriving. The population had grown to 50,000. Humans, Valthran, and members of 15 other species lived and worked together. There were problems, of course. Cultural misunderstandings, technical difficulties, political disagreements, but they worked through them. Because that's what the Covenant meant, working together despite differences. Elena had taken command of a new ship, the Hope. Its mission was simple: explore the galaxy and help anyone who needed it. It was crewed by humans and Valthran working side by side. On her last day at Haven Station before launching, Elena visited the memorial. The names of those who died in the battle were carved into crystal, preserved forever. She touched the wall, feeling the smooth surface under her fingers. "We didn't forget you," she whispered, "and we won't forget what you died for. I promise." Velthora appeared beside her. The Valthran leader was older now, her crystal body showing small cracks that came with age. But her light burned as bright as ever. "You're leaving," Velthora said. It wasn't a question. "Someone has to look for others who need help. Might as well be us. You could stay here, rest, you've earned it." Elena shook her head. "There are more species out there like you were, trapped, forgotten, alone. I can't rest knowing that." Velthora's colors shifted to warm gold. "You truly are remarkable, Elena Volkov. Your species is remarkable. You defeated the custodians not through superior technology or ancient wisdom. You did it through simple stubbornness and an unwillingness to abandon those in need. Is that a compliment or an insult? Elena asked with a smile. Both. Definitely both. They stood together looking at the names on the memorial. Your species has a word, Belthora said, that we never understood until we met you. Hope. We knew the word, but we didn't know what it felt like. 3 million years of imprisonment taught us despair, but you taught us hope again. And you taught us something too, Elena replied. Perseverance. We humans are good at fighting, at surviving, but you waited 3 million years and never gave up believing that someone might come. That's a different kind of strength. The Hope launched the next day. Elena stood on the bridge watching Haven Station grow smaller behind them. In the captain's chair, she felt the weight of responsibility, but also excitement. The galaxy was full of mysteries, full of species that might need help, and humanity was ready to answer the call. Before they jumped to faster than light speed, Elena recorded a message. It would be broadcast on all frequencies in all languages throughout human space and beyond. This is Captain Elena Volkov of the ship Hope. We're heading out into unexplored space. Our mission is simple. Find anyone who needs help and help them. No matter who they are. No matter how different. No matter how impossible it seems. She paused, then spoke words that would become humanity's motto in the galaxy. Because that's what we do. We show up, we stand up, we don't back down, and we never ever leave anyone behind. The message reached Earth 3 hours later. Children in schools heard it. Workers in factories, farmers in fields, people on Mars and Luna and in the Belt. And everywhere they felt pride. Pride in what humanity had become. Not perfect. Still flawed. Still capable of mistakes. But also capable of incredible compassion. Incredible courage. Incredible stubbornness in the face of impossible odds. The galaxy had spent billions of years learning to fear the custodians. Learning to obey without question. Learning that some things couldn't be changed. Humanity had proven them all wrong. The Valthran had been forgotten. The galaxy had moved on, but one species refused to forget. One species refused to accept that anyone deserved to die alone. And that changed everything. As the Hope jumped to faster than light speed, heading toward unknown stars and unknown challenges, Elena smiled. She thought about the young Valthran children playing with human children, about the memorial where heroes' names were carved in crystal, about her crew, human and Valthran together, ready to face whatever came next. The custodians had ruled through fear for billions of years. They had believed that order and sameness were the only way, but they had never faced anything like humanity. Messy, chaotic, stubborn, compassionate, diverse. United in the only way that really mattered, in the belief that every life had value, and that no one deserved to be forgotten. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly how it should be. Somewhere in the darkness of space, on a small observation post on the edge of known space, an alien scientist detected something unusual, a quantum signature moving through space. Not human, not Valthran, something else. Another forgotten species waiting in the dark. The scientist sent a message to Haven Station. Within hours, the Hope changed course. Captain Elena Volkov smiled as she read the report. Set course for the new coordinates, she ordered. Let's go see who needs our help. Because that's what humans did. They showed up, they stood up, and they never left anyone behind. The Valthran had been forgotten, until humanity remembered. And now, no one would ever be forgotten again.